ParaNatural Podcast.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the very first ParaNatural Podcast. I'm Christian Key. I'm your host. Tonight we're talking about ghosts, and for a first show, you couldn't do much better. We got a couple guests with us, all friends of mine who dig weird, freaky things. Starting off with my wife, Christy, who has a Loch Ness Monster fixation. Would you say?
Yes.
Sorry. So, but you do, what else? Cryptozoology, you dig Bigfoot is one of your fortes?
Anything different and interesting.
Okay. Oh, didn't you have a mermaid thing?
Not really. I like to watch mermaid videos on YouTube.
I think you wanted to believe in mermaids.
Tippity type.
I
have a sister that liked to sing Little Mermaid songs out the window when she was little. You're welcome, Michelle.
Okay, and then sitting in on the couch, we got Big Hen Dog.
That me?
Henry Woodard. He is a buddy of mine. We met through Monster Mountain, which means we share a mutual love of covering ourselves in fake blood, stomping around the woods, and scaring people all night.
And then 3 years later, we found out we're related to each other.
Yes, and later on down the line, we found out we were related. We are distant cousins of some kind. So that is Henry, and then on the end there we have Mr. Josiah Cole, Joko.
Joko.
How long have we known each other now?
Man, I don't know. I have no idea.
It's got to be 10 plus. We got to be 10 plus years.
Yeah, easy.
Joe has shared in the madness at Monster Mountain, but he's just a buddy of mine that we've known each other for about 10 years. As a matter of fact, the first time I ever talked to him on the phone, I told him, for some reason, I get the feeling that we're going to be talking to each other for a real long time. And that wound up being the case here 10 years later. So that's Joe. We got Henry, Christy, me, and we're talking about ghosts. And we've got a couple people who, in just a little bit, we're going to attempt to call because they got killer ghost stories for us. So, I guess if we're sharing, I'll start off. I'm open-minded to the fact of the ability, like the possibility of ghosts.
Yeah.
I said something in the preview where I actually brought it up, and it's a fact. I found it at science.nasa.gov, but it's a real fact. You can look it up.
You trying to hack into the military website?
No, not again. So, but no, it's a fact that everything that you can see, touch, taste, feel, hear, smell, matter. Anything of that nature makes up 5% of our universe. The rest of it's made up of dark energy and dark matter. So as far as I'm concerned, 15% is not enough to make a rational decision about ghosts are real or they're not real.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just... But at any rate, I guess the first story, I was a little kid. I was about 4 years old. And my parents, we lived in a little house my dad built for us and built it out of barn lumber. I mean, it was, he built this house by hand. And so they were redoing the bathroom, and I got up in the middle of the night, and I had to go to the bathroom, and I go back there. And years later, I read a superstition book. And in there, one of the things it says is never look through a keyhole, because you may not be prepared to see what's on the other side. It's kind of like keyholes were gateways or something, maybe into the next dimension or whatever. And I hadn't read that particular book at 4 years old. So I walked up, and the door was hung, but there was no knob. It was just a hole, right? So for whatever reason, instead of just pulling the door open and walking in and peeing or whatever, I get down and I walk up. It's eye level because I'm like 4, and I look through and like I'm looking up around the room, and all of a sudden there's 2 red eyes, like way up high, right? And I'm like just locked in fear because this is something you're not supposed to see.
That's freaky.
I'm 4.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like if I did this as an adult, I would need clean drawers. I was 4. You know what I mean? So I'm like locked in this gaze, and all of a sudden I hear this growl, this like deep, like bassy growl, and I look. My eyes come away. I'm looking up at this thing, and I tear my eyes away for a second. And I get down, and there's 2 more red eyes on my level, right in my face.
Oh no.
Yeah, man. And so, like, I whipped around from the door. I broke. I was brave enough to break, And I wound up, my mom's bed was right beside it, and I wound up falling down beside her bed and grabbing the covers and holding my head down. And I remember they had one of them old alarm clocks, the red LCD alarm clocks.
Oh, yeah.
And I sat there and watched that thing go from like 3 to like 6 because I couldn't wake them up and be like, Bobby, there's a demon in the bathroom. You can't do that.
Yeah.
I didn't think anybody would believe me, so I just sat there. And I know a couple people, for whatever reason, that think that ghosts are repelled by covers. That the covers can save you from any supernatural being.
They are magical.
They can. I think that's a lot of the fact that covers can save you from whatever's coming
I
after
don't
you.
know. Yeah, I don't know why we pull them up over our head like it's some kind of plutonium shield or something.
It's like when you close your eyes in school. If they can't see me,
That's like
if I
when
can't see them, they
Everything
can't see
goes
me.
away.
like a little kid, whenever they're playing peep-eye or peekaboo, they cover their eyes because they can't see you.
They're invisible.
They think that they're
you're-
invisible.
Yeah, right.
Kathy me. Hand down their diaper. Kathy me. But at any rate, I'm sorry. So yeah, that was my ghost story. And Christy, for years, she worked at a movie theater, and we didn't know it, but we both paralleled. We had the same life and stuff. Like, she's working for a movie theater, and I was working at a movie theater. Like, both of
Or
us
the
are
same
wearing
company.
the same company too. And so we were like, we were always destined to be together, man. But at any rate, when she was working at this movie theater, this place. Have you ever been to the movie theater in Springfield before they tore it down?
No.
You remember?
No.
Oh man, you guys.
It's creepy. That requires like an after dark tour.
Yeah,
that's
we
good
actually.
stuff.
So peep this. One of her friends worked up there and was like the manager, right? And she let us come up and watch a movie. I forget. It might have been like the new Ninja Turtles. We took the kids to a movie or whatever. And so after the movie's over with, there's nobody in there. So it's just her friend and us. And then Christy's like, you want to see some creepy stuff? And I'm like, am I awake? Of course I want to see some creepy stuff. So she takes me, man, and we go back behind the screen and go in this room. And there's like a coal room, dude, from like the 1800s. Like the
that's
room,
awesome.
the room, it had
Huge,
it had skulls and skeletons of animals. And like a pile of coal. Like the floor was coal. It was up the walls. I guess whenever they closed it down, they're just like, it's enough coal, leave the rest of it. Because it's like a coal room. And it has
wow.
boilers and stuff. And it's like, looks like early 1900s.
Well, this building it was built in the 1930s, and it was, I think, a tobacco warehouse. I think is what I was told.
I remember reading.
And then they turned it into
they used
a
to load
theater.
the tobacco right there on the railroad.
Yeah, but they've got a big behind the screen. If you go back there, you'd think it was just a wall and maybe some random junk heaters and stuff like that. But there's actually a walkway that goes behind the screen, and at the far end, if you go in on the right, take a left, go all the way to the back wall. There's another door there.
Right.
And it takes you downstairs, and it's got this big, coal room in the back with the big coal burning heater or whatever it is back there.
Boiler or whatever.
The boiler room, or I don't know what you call it, but
Freddy Krueger's house.
Freddy Krueger's
but yeah, it's
house.
just littered with burned skulls. I think we saw a possum skull back there. I mean, just
It was
coal.
it was
just a big pile
gnarly,
of coal.
man.
It was crazy.
Oh, that's
looking.
awesome.
And then there's this.
No
there's
lights,
this-
no light inside.
So this was
Anyway.
y'all's first official date.
No lights, no windows. No, we did some. Our first official date was at an even creepier place called Waffle House.
Oh God.
Yep.
Oh,
but no,
Waffle
but
Waffle.
at any rate, and then also in the ceiling, we went back behind the screen at this movie theater, and there was this old coal room, and this stuff on the walls and stuff that you could tell it hadn't been touched in 70 years, But then also, there wasn't there some kind of secret...
there's a catwalk. If you go behind the screen, there's this old wooden ladder that looks like if you touched it, it would crumble into ash.
It's made out of dust at this point.
You know how tall the ceilings are over the main theater. You can climb up that wooden ladder, and it goes all the way up to the ceiling. There's a catwalk that goes from the top of the screen all the way back to where the projection room is. And
Right.
there's a balcony in that particular theater. So it goes up, there's 76 some odd steps from the ground floor all the way up to the...
And you think about a movie
Projection
theater,
room.
how high it is from floor to ceiling. If
Yeah.
you fell, you'd be a ghost for sure. You definitely... We're getting off the subject. We're supposed to be talking about ghostesses.
Well, we are talking about.
Well, all right,
ghostesses.
Christy. So while you were working up there, and you were the manager of the place, and you ran the whole place.
Well, I was the assistant manager /
Yeah.
janitor at one point / security guard for the children's in the area.
Jack of all trades.
In my movie experience, I don't know. I've done the whole movie theater thing, but not like you. You were a manager, so you did literally everything, you know. But so anyway, I'm setting the stage for you. You tell them what
All right.
happened.
So I told you I had 2 stories. I actually got 3. One's from a different place though. But at this particular place I worked at, and I worked there for like 7 years, and I never saw anything creepy. You know, we always joked that there were dead bodies in the basement, and there was a basement somewhere that had been concreted over, and you couldn't get down there. But I worked as I was working there as the assistant manager, and then I cleaned at night. So there was one night that I had, you know, checked the whole theater, make sure nobody was hiding, because sometimes kids like to hide up in the balcony so they could get into stuff in the middle of the night. And checked the whole building, made sure I was the only one in there, locked the doors. There's, one set of main doors you can go in and out, and then we've got 2 emergency doors, one at the back of the screen and one right there by the concession stand like most movie theaters do.
Right.
And I heard water running. I was like, okay, I know nobody's in here. Somebody left the sink on. So I go up to the 2nd floor where the bathrooms are, and and I go to the sink, and the water's just running full blast in the men's bathroom. So I turn it off. I'm like, some little jerk left the water on, left it running. It's going to flood in here. So I turned it off, go back downstairs, pick up my stuff, start cleaning. And I hear it again. So I'm like, what in the hell? So I go upstairs again, turn the water off in the men's bathroom, go back downstairs, and it's just running full blast. And I do that about 4 more times, really? And there's nobody in the building. I've checked all of the typical hiding spots,
Make
bathrooms
sure
are
nobody
empty.
was messing with you.
Yeah, nobody's messing with me. Check the back. There's a big old long creepy stairwell. I checked the stairwell, checked the projection room, down behind the screen, all the places you could hide. Did it from one end to the other so nobody could sneak behind me. Wasn't nobody in that building but me.
Yeah.
And that water came on like 4 different times. There wasn't a leaky faucet, and the 4th time I turned it off, it stayed off for the rest of the night while I was cleaning the entire movie theater. Never heard another drip.
Well, was you cleaning when the other thing happened with the?
Yeah, I think so. I think that
same-
was another night. Wasn't nobody in the building but me, and I'd already locked it up. And I was standing in the ticket booth, and from there you've got a straight shot. You can look right back and see in the concession stand. And we had the different sizes cups lined up on top of the ice maker, which is taller than I am, and I'm 5'4"-ish.
Right.
And I happen to turn around right as I hear something move, and I see a cup fly off the top of the ice maker, go across the little narrow concession stand, hit the counter, bounce off into the floor, and spin. There's no draft. All the doors are shut. The ticket window's closed.
Is this the same
The
place?
air's not on. Same place.
Same place as the bathroom goes?
Same place as the bathroom goes.
That place was haunted, for
See,
sure.
now she's got the bathroom goes, now she's got the concession stand. He's like, I want my damn soda.
That's what he was drinking soda, and then he had to go pee.
Price of
Satisfied.
sodas nowadays.
That's right.
Ghosts can't pee. They got to run the water and stand there and feel sad and remember what it's like to pee.
This is terrible.
Yeah. So, Henry, your ghost story. You got that's actually happened to you
Yeah.
in your life that you saw?
I was
felt or heard?
visiting the Bell Witch Cave.
Here we go.
And we were walking down to the cave, looked to my left, pair of eyes.
What kind of eyes?
They
like
No,
eagle eyes?
it was white, luminous eyes.
Googly eyes.
Like, is this while you're with a group and
Yeah.
stuff?
Nobody else saw it but me.
Oh.
So everybody said, "Oh, you're just making shit up." And I was like, "No, I'm not." So we continue into the cave. We're going through this narrow passageway. I'm claustrophobic, by the way. So I'm a rather large fellow. So I tell the person behind me, wait about 2 minutes, then we come back, and then you can come on in.
Right.
Then as I'm walking through, I keep feeling somebody's touching my daggum side.
Oh.
And they tell me there was a spirit following me, and it was the spirit of Bell Witch.
Man.
She saw me as like, I'm like, what do you think I am, a piece of meat here?
You don't play with the Bell Witch, and like one of the things that we're taught as kids around here, it's gonna be me and Henry are doing the local legend show, but the Bell Witch, you're never ever supposed to say that you don't believe in that particular thing.
No.
I won't put it together and say it like that.
No,
I'm sorry,
yeah.
but
But
I ain't gonna take the chance. But anyway, go ahead.
But see, the reason why she was following me is because there was a pebble from her gravesite on my shoe.
Oh,
It was
you
stuck
think maybe
it was stuck in
rocks?
the bottom of my shoe.
Hey, I actually had a friend message me last night on Facebook, right? Mm-hmm. and she went. Okay, check this out. They flunked English, I think, one year, and so they had to go to summer school in White House, right? Everybody's flunked something. I don't care who you are. So anyway, they were doing this report on the Bell Witch. So they decide, her and her friend decide that they're gonna make a little field trip of it, and they go up to the cave, right? And they talk to the people there, and one of the things the people told her was like, no matter what you do, no matter what you do not take anything from here. Not a rock, not a stick, not a twig, not a leaf. Don't take nothing. Because if you do, everyone that has either brought it back or mailed it back, because it is bad luck Charlie.
Get this away from me.
Right.
Bad juju.
Okay, so she warned, and she's like, 18 or whatever. She's going through a rebellious phase. She's like, whatever. And so she holds up a rock, and she's like, so I can take this? And the woman looks at her and goes, I'm just telling you. Right? That's her warning. I'm just telling you.
That's what they said to me when I took the tour myself.
Yeah, so she did. She took the rock. And she said for like 3 weeks, she had the most horrible nightmares. Like the most horrible, vivid nightmares where she was getting chased by this thing. She described it as a spirit witch. But this thing was chasing her in her dreams, right? And so she tells her buddy, like, look, man, I'll give you $10 in gas money if you'll run me back up there. And he's like, we're not going to the cave. And she's like, I don't care. John Bell's got a memorial up there. I'll take it and put it up there. And he's like, well, whatever. So they go out there. She puts the rock down, and it stops. Everything just stops, right? So the bad dreams are over with or whatever. Now, the weird part is, so, like, years later, after she got married and stuff, she come across this old book about the Bell Witch. And she opened it up, and she's looking through it, and she drops it on the floor because there's an old illustrated drawing, a picture by pencil that somebody had drawn of this thing, and it was the exact thing that was chasing her in her dreams.
Doesn't mean we can go and like steal a rock and drop it in the studio and maybe we can get a live interview with the Bell Witch?
I
think that
is a great idea.
I think it's horrible. I think it's a horrible idea, and I'll tell you why I think it's a horrible idea. Because there's a very good chance to me that not all these ghosties are real ghosties. That some of these ghosties are demons pretending to be ghosties. So fools like us tromping around cemeteries with EMF detectors and taking EVPs. You know what I mean?
Man, some of those demons could be good guys.
Well, the way I look at it, the demonic stuff, you know what I'm saying? I know it. I believe very much it exists because I believe in God. So that means I have to believe in the other team, right? So I do believe that. And I believe sometimes that sometimes they'll take the form of like somebody that we love that passed, and they're not really a ghost. They're a demon.
They will do that,
you know
to
what I
try
mean?
to fool you.
Yeah, exactly.
To
That's
let
what
them
I'm saying.
accept them, just like the movie Annabelle. I know this is off topic and this is not a real ghost story, but actually the Conjuring movie was based on the haunting of Annabelle. Basically, there was a spirit living in this lady's house.
Right.
She needed invitation in, and the doll was there. They said, so you could come in and be Annabelle.
I heard a story like this called Child's Play one time.
Child's Play, that was a mythological, that's not real. But I mean, it's the same concept.
Thing, but real life
same
version.
concept, but this is real life
version.
But see, Annabelle couldn't talk. But she could
she
write.
Was a doll. Right.
So they leave for a night. They come back. The room, it said, did you miss me?
Man.
So they took the doll out, threw it in the trash. The next morning, they hear a bang at the door. Threes. Basically, it tells you it's mocking the Holy Trinity. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost.
Right.
Basically, then the same note that they crumbled up and threw in with the doll was laying right there, and Annabelle was on the couch.
So
Why did nobody ever burn this doll so there's nothing left to bang on the door later?
That would be my go-to.
The way it is, demonologist, you cannot burn the vessel. You can burn the vessel, but the spirit still stays. See,
I had a friend the other day that was talking about, she used to be on a paranormal team. Matter of fact, it's the same one that told me the Bell Witch story. She was on a paranormal team, and they got a room where there was a mirror, where there was something in the mirror. And their grandpa told them how to do it, or grandma. You had to take it out and like burn the mirror, but you had to burn it upside down and had to burn it face down and make sure it stayed face down so it couldn't come out of it, you know. But Joe, you never got to tell your ghost story.
Oh,
She
okay.
told me the other night. Yours happened when you were young, like me.
I was I might have had a couple years up on you. So I think we moved into my granny's house when I was about 6.
In Gilletsville.
In Goodlettsville, right. And that's the house I'm in right now.
It reminds me so much of the house I grew up in, right at the road, man.
Right.
Same.
Oh yeah.
But Joe's grandma's is like untouched by time.
Oh,
It seriously looks like it's stuck in like 78.
Oh yeah, it's like the
78,
pure
81.
red carpet when you walk in, green carpet in the dining room or living room.
High
And all
shag
that.
carpet.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're
this
good.
this happened and you're staying in the house.
I'm
still.
staying in the house, and the thing is, well, okay, I'll get back to this part, but so I'm staying in the house, and I'm about 6 years old, I'm little, and I'm in the room. I'm sleeping in the room that I actually sleep in now, ironically enough. But okay, so I'm 6, and I'm alone. I'm in this room, and I'm asleep, and I wake up, and the door always stayed open to the room because I was 6. Like my door was always open. So I woke up, and I looked up, and there was a man standing in my doorway, and it was an older man. And
Hey, was it solid or could you see through it?
it was not solid.
It
was not solid. I can say that. It
So
was not
you
solid,
didn't-
but
you
it would
didn't
have
think
been
like somebody
definitely
was-
a man.
But you didn't think
silhouette
like
of
somebody
him.
was in the house. Like you could see through it. You're like, oh, this is not somebody.
I couldn't tell. I didn't know.
Makes sense.
I didn't
You're a
know
kid.
if it was something I could touch or not. But I knew I could see it. All along, I knew I could see it.
I see your point.
He was there, and there was this man, and he was looking at me, and I was terrified because there wasn't supposed to be a man in the house.
No.
And there's only 2 other, grown-ups in the house, and it's my mother. She's in the room directly across from me, and my grandmother, she's diagonally across from me.
No, man.
And so, I have no idea what went through my head, but I just knew I had to get to one of them. Right? And so I run, and somehow he's in my doorway, but I run directly right by him because I had to get to my grandmother.
Oh man,
And
that's
so,
courage to
and
run
so it's
towards
just like
the ghost.
I bolt through that doorway, and I run into my grandmother's room. My grandmother sleeps with panties on her head. She's that old school, just got my
old
perm,
school.
So I run in there, and I'm like, Granny, you don't wake my granny up, and I'm like, Granny, there's a man in my room. And she jumps up and she's like, what are you talking about? There's a man in my room. Granny, please help me. Okay, so she walks in there, turns on the light, and of course, there's nobody in here, la, la, la. And she's able to calm me down enough so I can go back to sleep. And I finally get back to sleep, and I wake up, and the next day, I was just up and playing and everything, and I look up, and in that room, and it was a picture that I've never consciously looked at before then.
Right.
But it's a picture of my grandfather, and that was the man that I saw in the doorway, and I had to go ask him. I said, who's that a picture of? And they said, that's your boom paw, and I was like,
Boom paw.
because he died about 2 or 3 years before I was born in that house, in
he
my
died?
grandmother's bathroom. Yeah.
Oh, how close is that? Well, it doesn't matter.
In her room,
He
basically,
lived there.
in her bathroom, her master bathroom. But yeah, so he had died, so probably about 8 years before that time was when he died in that house. And and I was like, what? That's Boom Paul. That's the man that was standing in my room the other day. And
I have a valid question concerning that. Did that happen to be your mom's bedroom when she was a kid, by any chance?
They moved into that house when my mom was a teenager. I have no idea whose room that one was.
Because I was watching a show earlier actually, and they had ghost stories, and it was kind of that whole scenario where it was these people had bought this house, and it had been around since Civil War times. And this woman that had moved into it, she kept saying there was a couple that had lived in the house like in the 40s, and they had, I guess, hosted a lot of parties, and they were really loved around town. And years later, this woman moved into the house, and this guy kept coming into her room, this apparition or whatever. And she said he looked friendly. He just looked like, a father coming in to look in on their kid. He would come in and just stand over the bed and kind of watch him, like parents do.
Right.
To watch their kids, make sure they're breathing, make sure they're okay. And after she moved the furniture around in the room, he stopped showing up and visiting her at like, 2, 3 a.m., something like that. Because he would do it every single night. And it turns out that couple that had lived in the house in the 40s, that was their daughter's bedroom. They had a daughter that was like 6 years old, and she claimed there was a little girl named Sarah that lived in the house that was about 6 years old. Those people had a daughter that was named Sarah that was 6 years old, and that was her bedroom. But once she moved furniture around, the guy stopped coming in. So she thought maybe it was his image or whatever coming in to look in on his daughter. She just happened to be sleeping in the daughter's old room.
And you know what? That's extremely possible, because I guarantee, like, the room now, the furniture's changed a little bit. But I guarantee the bed I was sleeping on was probably the bed that was in the house when they built the house.
I would ask your mom if maybe that was her bed, or if maybe that was like the
it had to have been
the room
hers
was
or
in.
one
If
of my
she was,
aunts.
or
it
one
had
of
to
the
have been.
That
when
actually
they were little.
that brings up another question that I've got, as far as like ghosts. And you know how sometimes they're just repeating something over and over and over.
Basically, like a tape recorder, it just plays over and over.
Yeah,
the same thing.
now see, that's the thing, and I kind of think my theory is kind of okay. Every second in time that happens is kind of like a movie frame, right? So the past happens, but it don't just go away. It's still there.
Right.
And I think I'm wondering if I even wondered if the regular magnetic fields and stuff were possible, because you make magnetic tape. On magnetic tape, you can record on magnetic tape. So if your regular magnetic fields, if they are able to capture an image and store it, that was one of my things. If houses had memories, if walls had memories, because it sounds outrageous, right? But
everything has energy.
Well, I think I told you the other day, but scientists now have took a crystal and have stored an image of a hummingbird flying in this crystal. Now, the only thing you could ever store something in before was a human brain or a hard drive.
Right.
They actually took, and the guy's like, well, this seems unbelievable, but we actually do something similar every day. And he holds up a CD. And he said, this is a piece of plastic with some aluminum foil in it. And we're able to put a movie on it. So don't think it's absurd that we can put a 30-second clip of a hummingbird in a crystal.
Right.
So that makes me wonder, if maybe things have a memory, of repeating over and over.
Or maybe if you have the same objects or similar objects placed just so in a room, maybe you don't see the image that,
Yes.
It's like a universal code kind of thing.
I was wondering, like, how you see a ghost, like what makes it. And I was talking to somebody the other day about the Matrix theory. The fact, and Joe knows what I'm talking about. I think Joe calls it the holographic world.
Oh, holographic universe.
Yeah, that's a book that Joe read that influenced him greatly.
Oh, yeah.
But basically, if we are living in a Matrix, I was talking to somebody and I was like, you know what? If we were living in the Matrix and somebody dies and they pull their file and delete them out of the computer, well, you know how on a computer you can never really delete anything. There's always
There's
so
some
what
memory
if
somewhere.
the program started to load him up for like half a second and started to play him doing something, and you know what I mean?
There's
that would
your
explain
ghost.
a ghost.
Yeah.
Yep. But
all ghosts are energy. It's just it takes energy to make energy.
I've actually heard now one of the things, how when you're ghost hunting, one of the things that you use is a thermometer, like
basically, if you see a temperature drop.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well,
something's trying to manifest in the energy of the air.
Right.
It drops the temperature of the air.
The other day I watched a documentary, and we take for granted that the way you hunt for ghosts is with an EMF meter. Right. Who said that means a ghost is near? You know what I mean?
It's just a legend. Right.
Same thing. Pictures, looking for orbs and stuff like that, and EVPs, and it's like, I don't know. It's like, who said that they have to throw off an electromagnetic field? But I've heard that they will take whatever source of power that they've got close, like heat or light or whatever, and pull that power and try to manifest. So
Whatever
basically, they pull the heat out of the air to use it to try to basically manifest itself.
And also, if you have a video camera, it'll actually take the energy from the camera to use to manifest themselves.
Is that why on these ghost hunting shows, when they go looking for them, their batteries will die?
Yes,
like
it's taking the energy.
I mean, that could make sense, yeah.
It takes the energy, the electromagnetic energy out of the batteries to manifest what they're trying to show you.
It would explain some blinking lights, too. Some lights going on and off.
That's why they set a flashlight on, and they said they'll say, hey, if you're here, turn this flashlight off.
Well,
All they have to do is just try to appear and the flashlight will go off.
See, I was watching on TV the other day My Ghost Story, and it was Rue McClanahan from the Golden Girls, played Blanche. She had this guy that she was real close to, and he passed away. But before he passed, they agreed. They're like, look, if you get over there, try to contact me. Just try to contact me. And she's like, I tell you, use something electrical. Just see if you can use something electrical to contact me. And so, like a week goes by and the guy passes or whatever. And she goes in the house, and like immediately after he passes, they've got a bank of like 9 or 10 fluorescent lights, and they just went off, back on, off.
Oh,
and yeah. It got to the point where she could ask questions, and like it would blink yes or no.
That's great. That's good stuff, man.
Which brings me up to the next subject about contacting ghosts. All right. Yes, no, maybe so. Do you think it's possible to contact ghosts?
Yes, it is very possible. I mean, there's some spirits, like if you
Do you think they're conscious of us, that they know we're looking at them?
Yes, they are.
In some
I was
cases?
watching a documentary, basically it was a show called Ghost Hunters.
Okay.
Real big fan. The
Right.
Atlantic Paranormal Society.
Okay.
Basically, the way to try to contact a ghost is try to piss them off.
That sounds...
Basically,
Yeah, that sounds like a terrible idea.
Well, I mean, that's how they
You don't
got,
go in with a
I
cake.
understand, but yeah.
Also,
I'll bring cookies or something.
and also the presence of religious items.
Now, see, that throws me back into thinking it's demons, man.
See,
Right.
demons or something, it's, if you present religious items, the demon does say, hey, you're taunting me.
Yeah. Right.
Just like watch the movie, The Conjuring.
You're riling them up.
You're riling them up to, hey,
Right.
we want you to appear. We want evidence.
What do
of
you
the
think?
past.
What do you think, Joe? Can you contact a ghost?
I mean, I definitely believe you can contact ghosts, and like, like the whole like the mediums and all that
Right.
that they have. Like, I believe in that 100%. Now, I do believe there are a whole bunch.
I believe in remote viewing, if you've ever seen something like that. Or
Okay.
maybe like some of the pure ESP tests, but like, hey, I'll tell you where, what job you're going to have in a year. I don't know.
Well, it's like,
But
and
anyway.
I'll put it like this. Some things make me real skeptical, and I know there's a whole bunch of frauds. It just is. You know, you can
It
make
is
money
what
on
it
it. There's gonna be frauds.
Yeah.
But like, I tell you this, okay, and this is just one of the more recent things that just blows my mind.
Right.
My little cousin died like 2 years ago or so. His name was TC, right? My Aunt Faye is his grandmother. Or was, his grandmother. Anyway, and it affected my Aunt Faye really, really hard. That's her grandbaby, and he died. He was only like 17 or 18 years old.
Was he sick or?
No, he died. He was like swimming in a rock quarry with his friends or something, and he dove in and somehow I guess he hit his head or something. But yeah,
I tell you what, man, I've noticed a lot of the ghost stories revolve around like violent ends or ends
Right.
where you just have to go real
Like
quick.
a
Sudden
horrific turn of events.
right. And see, that's the thing is like my Aunt Faye, she took it super hard, and that's her grandbaby, and she was real close with him. She went to like a convention or some kind of like sale or something not long ago.
Right.
And she was in there, and she had this necklace that somebody had gotten her, and it was in memory of TC, and it had like 2 angel wings on it, and I think they had like on the back they might have had something inscribed in them.
But she thought the world of him.
She thought the world of him, and she took that necklace, and what she did is she went there because she was going to get a new chain. The chain was getting shoddy and all that. Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
So she went and she found a vendor, and she got this chain. And she had the vendor put the wings on it and all that, and it looked great to her, and she put it on, and it looked great. Right. And so she bought it, and she left, and like just a little bit shortly after, she's sitting there. She sat down to take a break, and somebody goes, ma'am, that woman over there's trying to get your attention. And so she like looks over, and there's this woman that is going, you dropped something. You dropped something. And so my aunt's like, what? She looks down, and there's her necklace on the ground with the angel wings, right?
No.
And she picks it up, and the necklace isn't broken or anything, and it's fully clasped. So it's not like it unclasped and came.
So it's like, how did it get off?
So it was around her neck, clasped and everything.
Wow.
And then it's at her feet. And so she goes up and she's like, "Thank you very much." And the woman said, she was like, "Look, I really hate to bring up something like this." She's like, and I really, because people will get mad at me for this kind of thing, and start yelling at me. Nah. She said, "But have you by any chance lost a young man?"
Oh, man.
And so my aunt goes, "Yeah. I mean, my grandson died, about 2 years ago."
Right.
And the woman said, she said, "Well, there's a young man that's bouncing around trying to get your attention." And my aunt was like, "Okay, all right. And what else? What are you trying to, like, I'm not really."
What's he got to say?
Yeah, yeah. And the woman said, she was like, "Well, look, is there something that relates you to him that has to do with, like, Notre Dame?" And my aunt goes, "Notre Dame? No." And the woman said, "Or maybe the Irish?" And my aunt was like, "No, I can't think of anything." And the girl said, or the woman said, "Because I'm seeing a 4-leaf clover, and it's like a big thing." And my aunt goes, "Me and him used to go out hunting for 4-leaf clovers every time we got a chance. Like, that was our thing." And she told me that, dude, it broke my heart. But, like, that's the thing, because there's no, like, you can pick a million things that people will have in common. Right, but when you're just gonna pick a random stranger that there's no way you could have heard the story from or anything like that.
Right, and just hit on it and be right on the account of what the entity looks like. Right. And then a message. Right. Like, there's something.
And that's what my aunt was saying. She was like, TC was always, when he was excited, he was just bouncing. He was just jumping up and down, just, bouncing around. And that's exactly how she described him. He is bouncing around you.
Man.
Trying to get your attention.
That gives me pause to think, like, instantly you think, well, it's demons. It's demons assuming forms. But that kind of makes me wonder when it's a little innocent kid and there's nothing that's bad going on.
Right.
Like, I talked to this one girl on Facebook, and she told me this story where she was spending the night at this house, and she had, like, a little daughter, and this kid was real young, like 3-ish or whatever. And so she wakes up in the middle of the night and looks at the foot of the bed, and there's this little 3-year-old girl sitting at the foot of the bed in a beanbag chair, looking at the TV, right? And she sees this man beside her, and he's just sitting there beside her, like, watching TV with her, and he looks around at the girl, and, like, acknowledges her, and then turns back around and looks back to the TV. Okay, and then she gets up the next day and goes down there, and they, of course, she doesn't want to tell anybody or whatever, and then, but some things came to light, and she was like, hey, and they showed her a picture, and it was him. But the thing of it is, like, he had cancer, and he kind of wasted away, you know what I mean? But when she saw him sitting there with the kid watching the TV, he looked like the best he'd ever looked in his life. And I think sometimes, like, I wonder about that. If ghosts, you know what I'm saying? Because if somebody wastes away and they look horrible on the end, the ghost never looks like that. It looks like the healthy, lively version of them. It's weird to be dead sense, and you look so alive.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just seeing stuff like that makes me wonder about the whole, is it demons? Because there's nothing, Right. Unless they're really
I'm sure there's definitely probably demons, that channel through whatever,
Well, we were talking about contacting ghosts. What do you guys think about Ouija boards?
I don't know. I've never messed with Ouija boards. I was always taught when I was little, like, it's one of those areas you just stay the heck away from. You don't touch them.
Right.
We didn't ever have one when I was a kid. I didn't have any temptation to, like, borrow my friend's Ouija board and hide it in the closet until mom and dad were asleep. Like, Ouija boards scare the hell out of me, so I just stay away from them.
I got a friend who's basically of the persuasion. He's like, look, if if it happens to accidentally exist, why? Why take the risk? What do you think, Frank?
Well, I think Ouija boards, yes. I mean, they can be dangerous.
Okay.
Basically,
Are you saying you have to follow the etiquette and say
you do
goodbye?
Yes, you do. Because if you don't, that leaves a gateway for something inhuman.
See, to leave the door open.
See, I don't want to open the gateway in the first place. I want to keep that sucker closed and off in somebody else's house.
You got a padlock?
Yeah.
See, I'm like...
Where's the river?
Yeah, I was about to say, in order for that, you're talking about leaving a gateway open, you have to open a gateway first.
Well, see, Christy, I mean, you're just like, I'm not going to never have to close it because I'm never going to open the damn thing.
See, my idea about it is, I think if you're trying to contact the dead, I don't think necessarily the power comes from that piece of cardboard from Milton Bradley. I think that because your mind thinks it will work,
and you're putting that energy into it,
right? And you think you have a conduit, and you think you have an open line. I think it's basically like Dumbo's magic feather.
Well, they've got that thing kids do now, where it's not. You don't necessarily have a Ouija board. I forget what it's called. It's like
Charlie.
Yeah, where you do it with paper and a couple of pencils or something.
Have you seen this?
No, I haven't.
No, I haven't.
The kids come home from school and they're doing this thing, and it's like a piece of notebook paper. And you put a pencil on it.
I think it's 2 pencils.
And then you put another pencil on top of that, and you face them in like opposite directions. And you're on your piece of paper. You've got yes and you've got no, and you say, Charlie, Charlie, and you ask a question or whatever, and it'll go to yes or no. So, I mean, in a very, very primitive sense, that's a Ouija board.
It's like a homemade Ouija board.
But, I mean, you're opening yourself up. You're opening that channel.
Yeah, and there's nothing saying that there's nothing saying that, a Ouija board will really do anything more than a Charlie Charlie will, but...
Yeah.
That's also taken back to the Bloody Mary days.
Yeah.
And the Candyman.
I think, the idea of that is like tempting something. It's just tempting.
Basically, that's the reason to get back to the thing of me putting religious items in a haunted place.
Right.
That's tempting them, provoking them.
And you
just
think that's
like the Bell Witch, how you provoke her, you take something out of her cave. That's provoking.
That's fine. I've actually heard Christy's cutting out, so...
I gotta leave.
Good evening.
Pick up the youngin'.
Thank you for coming on.
You gonna do a signature sign off?
What signature sign? I haven't made one yet. I'll create one for next time.
Traditions.
That's right.
Gotta
come
love
up
them.
with traditions.
Hey,
I
want to try one. Shave and a haircut. Peace out.
There you go. That works.
The official
right,
Christy's leaving music.
Bye, y'all.
Bye, girl.
All right, let's tell some nasty stories now.
Don't do nothing gross out here.
We're not going to do anything
Can't
gross.
promise nothing.
All right. I'm actually right now, she may be out. We might be having another one in because my friend Jennifer told me that she would like to talk to us. She has had a couple experiences, she said, in a house which she actually lives in now. As a child, it's Joe's situation. I don't know if it's going to work or not. I hope it does.
Of course it will.
I hope it does. It looks like it's
so far so good.
So far so good. Look at you answering the phone.
Yay! I did it!
You are helping me out
How's
so
it going?
much. You are helping me out so much right now because I actually figured out a way to get phone calls on the show.
Sweet.
Yes, and plus because we're using Facebook, it sounds amazing. It sounds a lot more clear than a regular phone call. Okay.
Well, cool, because I'm actually using my earbuds, and I wasn't sure if that would work out.
The mic on them sounds great. We got you. We got you loud and clear. As of right now, it is me. Christy has stepped out for the evening because she's watching our 1-year-old. Henry and Josiah, 2 friends of mine, are still here. Say, what's up, guys?
What's
Hey!
Hola!
Buenos dias.
Yeah. And this is Jennifer Raines. She actually went to high school with us. She has known me since high school, poor thing.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. But she actually, the other day, whenever I did the interview on NBRN, she actually called into the hotline and was supporting me and called in and told them I was the bomb. So
that's awesome.
She's
good.
my designated phone-a-friend at this point.
Right. I need to use one of my lifelines.
Jennifer, you said that you're a hospice nurse, right?
Mm-hmm.
See, now I'm a tech, and I worked in a nursing home for 2 years, and I under my breath, of course, but I have actually referred to a nursing home as a quote unquote ghost factory.
You know what?
I could see that.
This is going to sound evil as hell, but I used to really, 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 really want to go in there dressed up as the Grim Reaper on Halloween and just stand in people's doorways.
That'd be amazing.
Would it be better just not on Halloween, just on a Tuesday? Pick a Tuesday.
Random Tuesday, yeah.
You know there'd be...
Just at random, and, just randomly point at people and just not
Yeah, I was
say
about
a
to say,
word.
one old guy is going to be playing checkers, and he's going to look up and see, and he's going to furl his brow and go, "Not today, you son of a bitch."
Probably.
But did you ever see anything while you were working hospice? Because I know you're there at end of life care, and that is
all the time.
It is
all the time.
Weird.
Look, I'm going to tell you. One of the things that we prepare families for is that in the last days, patients are going to see people that, and not everyone, because every case is different, but commonly enough that we prepare people and say, look, in the last couple of days, just don't be alarmed if they say that they are seeing people that, loved ones that have already died that are in the room with them or have come to take them home or are talking to them.
So you kind of prepare them for that and let them know it's coming. Woof.
Yes.
So it does. It happens on such a regular basis that you actually warn people about it.
Yes.
Wow.
Because it scares people. Like they don't, they don't know what to think about that. And it's real. It's absolutely real.
I've noticed that they do a hump. It's like they'll be doing really bad, and then they'll have that one day that they're doing really good, and you just know. It's like that's...
We call that a rally.
Yeah, right.
They are rallying, and it might be a day, it might be a few minutes, it might be a couple of hours. You don't know. It could even be a whole week.
Woof.
Each person is different.
That's
but
right.
A lot of times that's when they're saying their goodbyes to everybody.
Wow.
They know what's coming.
You think?
They know it's coming. I know.
I think
too many times to not believe that.
Well, see, another thing too, we were talking about what caused a ghost earlier, and we were talking about usually it's some kind of traumatic or violent or unexpected death. But in nursing homes, if they know, I've seen a lot of people in nursing homes who are tired of keeping on, and they're ready to go home at any point, and they don't fear it like we fear it. And I think that as you get closer, you're able to see things, so you aren't so scared. I think maybe that's how it's designed.
One of the other things that happens, and there was another nurse that I worked with that described it this way. She said, when people have those bad days, and then they have those good moments where they're lucid and they're aware and they're talking to you, and then they go back and they're looking past you or beyond you, like they're seeing right through you, and they're talking to those predeceased loved ones. We call that transitioning, and the way she described it is that
whoa. I'm so sorry. I've got to stop you. You call it transitioning?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, man, that's crazy.
Awesome.
Is that not weird, guys?
Yeah.
Transitioning. Sorry, go ahead. Tell us about transitioning.
That's okay. They are going back and forth between this realms, if you will, to the next one.
This world to the next. Man, that's intense.
Yes.
Do you think maybe there at the end you can kind of glimpse things maybe from the other side, or see a little bit of it? Or
yes, absolutely.
Well, I mean...
I don't really, because what happens is as they are getting closer, they're spending less time here and more time there.
Transitioning. Very aptly,
yes.
Very aptly
And it will
named.
get to a point where they don't come back anymore. Mm. And then the body dies.
Okay, well, I got to ask, what have you seen when the body dies? Have you ever seen someone's spirit or soul, do you think?
No, but you can feel it.
You feel it? Now, see,
can
that's one
feel
of the
it.
things that I noticed
Yes.
is whenever I go in, whenever one of the first times I went in to do aftercare after somebody had passed, I walked in and this was a person that I had seen and I had taken care of. And when I walked in the room, and a lot of times the techs they see them more than anybody else,
Yes.
But
And you have a closer bond because you're doing the more intimate
you're taking
direct
care of them,
care.
yeah, right. But like this guy had passed, and I went in to do the aftercare, and it didn't even look like him. Like it looked
No.
like a different person. You know what I mean? Like there was a definite.
It's because he's not in his body anymore. He is
I
gone.
honestly think
His
that's
presence has left.
I do. I think
And you can feel that
They-
if you are in the room when that person passes. It's tangible. You can feel that presence leave.
That's crazy, man.
yeah, but it's crazy. But I absolutely believe it because
yeah.
I was actually in the room when my dad passed, and that was
Yeah.
such a weird thing. But it's almost like a weight is kind of lifted, and I don't know. It's but they very rarely.
It's not something that you can describe accurately enough. It's something that you can only really experience. My own grandmother, when the day before she passed away, our whole family was there, and she would respond to us, but she was not really talking to us much. She was seeing things that were above us or beyond us, whatever you want to call
the
it.
exact same scenario as
But
in the
where
nursing
she was
home.
looking was, yes, she was looking above us, and it was like she was seeing something else, like totally different place.
Man.
And she was hugging people all day long. Not the physical people that were there in front of her, but she was hugging whoever she was seeing, whoever was greeting her
Wow.
all day long.
That is
And
crazy.
she was happy.
I think, maybe
Yeah,
that's it.
yeah.
That's how we transition naturally. Maybe not, and maybe
Yes.
that's why ghosts are made. Is whenever it's a sudden thing. It's slamming into
Right.
another car going 100 miles an hour. It's instantaneous.
It's
And-
not that we happily went
I
out.
don't know if
Yeah.
that's accurate or not. But,
Well, we were talking about that earlier. Like
there is
what
definitely
makes
a difference in how that occurs. A natural death versus something unexpected.
Yeah, well, I mean, you said you had stuff go on in your house, right? The one you're in now.
Yes.
You said-
I've lived here. I was raised in this house, and then I moved out for a few years, and then 7 years ago, my parents bought a new house, and we took this house.
Right.
My parents were actually the first owners of this house, and they bought it before it was finished being built. So it's not like it was an old house.
So it's a
and
brand new
somebody
house.
else
It's not.
lived here
It's
and
not
they
on.
died or anything.
I said it's not like. I said it's a brand new house. So it's not like it's had 4 people murdered in it and it's on top of an Indian burial ground. It's relatively
Right.
a clean space. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, it's about 40 years old now, but my younger brother and I would see things all the time. And we have this hallway going back towards the original 3 bedrooms in the house, and all the time we would see somebody walking through the hallway towards the very back bedroom.
Right.
I mean, you would just catch that little glimpse of them. It would be super fast, but I mean, you would see them and close enough that you could make out what kind of clothing they were wearing.
Wow, man.
You couldn't really make out any details about the person themselves, but you could see their clothes. There was an incident where my younger brother and I were outside playing in the front yard when we were pretty young. And my brother saw this old woman walking across the yard towards us, and he got really scared, so he told me, and we ran inside the house. There was another incident where he saw this. He was in his room, like laying on his bed, watching TV, and his TV was set up on a dresser, and there was a mirror behind the TV. And he said he saw this hooded figure coming towards him, like reflected in the mirror.
Man. Woof. Now, see, I have a mirror story
yeah.
myself. Mirrors kind of, I don't know what it is, but especially like I've noticed if you've got 2 mirrors, like if you look through a mirror and it's like a bathroom mirror, but then it reflects off the back of a door or something. I've noticed that I actually, whenever I lived up here in Ridgewood Apartments, there was at 3 a.m. there was stuff that would knock around in the apartment and stuff. And I used to try to make sure that if it was 3 a.m. that I was somewhere with my headphones on, not walking around the house. But I made the mistake. I made the mistake of being back in my.
What I was going to tell you next is that there was I've got 4 brothers. So 2 of my older brothers, they had several friends that would come over to the house all the time. And there was one particular friend that anytime this guy came over here, stuff would happen.
Really?
Crazy stuff. Yes. One particular incident was we had 2 couches in our living room, and they were kind of in an L shape,
Right.
I was sitting on one couch, and he was sitting on the other waiting for one of my brothers to come back from doing something. And it sounded, this wasn't anything that either of us saw, but we both heard it. It sounded like a large glass pot came from above my head and slammed against the wall.
Wow.
And his head shattered.
A glass
Scared
pot?
the hell out of both of us.
I bet.
Yeah, like a big vase or pitcher.
Do you think that this guy was haunted instead of the house? It was this guy?
I don't know, but there was another time he was walking through our kitchen and a whole bunch of shelves just fell as he was walking past. Like
What?
everyone as he went past just
Wow.
fell. Everything on it just came
He's
down.
got several spirits from the afterlife, making sure he looks like a klutz for the rest of his day.
Right, he's a pirate. Yeah.
Well, apparently, but if I hadn't seen it, I would have thought he just knocked some stuff over. But no, it was coming down as he was walking past. It
That's
was
crazy.
creepy.
It sounds like he is the one that's haunted.
Yeah, he's
And-
carrying it with him. Yeah.
Possibly, but my grandmother that I was telling you about earlier, she was really into psychic awareness and
Do you think she was gifted in that sense? Do you think she was psychic herself?
absolutely. And I don't know that I would call it psychic, but
Did she just know
highly
things?
sensitive to her environment, highly intuitive.
Right.
I mean, there's people out there that, they're like me. I'm in tuned with all the supernatural. You don't
That's-
have to necessarily be a psychic or medium to see spirits or communicate with them.
Yeah, Henry says
Correct.
that he's actually, and I don't know, I've heard people raising their vibration by whichever means you want to do it.
You can.
Meditation or not eating meat or, basically just concentrating and trying to make yourself better.
Reiki.
Right. Maybe raise your vibration where you're more perceptive, I guess, or susceptible to see something like
Right,
that.
and she was into it to the point where she learned Reiki and dowsing, and she used crystals and all this other stuff.
So
But
psychic stuff was in your family from way back.
yes,
Right.
it was not a taboo topic in our household. It was a very common topic. I really feel like you don't have to be a psychic or whatever. You just have to be open to experiences or anything like that,
Susceptible.
and aware of your surroundings.
I've got one friend that was talking about
oh.
she did ghost hunting, and she was actually scared because she said they're going to all these different places and stirring this stuff up, and she was afraid that maybe something would attach to her, and next thing you know, it would follow her home.
Well,
But anyway,
that's something in my line of work that I have wondered about. Absolutely.
kind of following you home like a little lost puppy.
Maybe, but that affects you. You take a piece of whoever you come into contact with, and they take a piece of you.
Right.
So
I can see that.
yeah,
Energy exchange, totally.
and
Yeah.
yes, and to put it very simply, have you ever walked into a room and been able to immediately feel the emotional charge in the room?
I have walked into certain spaces and felt feelings for sure,
Cut
like an
the tension
emotional
with a butter
temperature
knife,
kind of. Yeah, like an emotional
Yes,
temperature kind of.
but even down to the weather, you can if you're indoors, you can feel the shift in the barometric pressure.
Right, and which is also why fish bite and right. It controls a lot of stuff.
Yeah. People that are really sensitive to those sorts of things, I think, are more prone to being sensitive to
Everything,
Right.
more. Yes,
right. And do you think that's the case with you?
absolutely, 100%.
But you say also, what about your mother? You said your grandmother was kind of an intuitive.
My mother doesn't talk about it.
Yeah, so
My dad does, but my mother doesn't.
well, actually, that's a good point that I was making, because I was talking about how everybody loves ghost stories when you're a kid. And then when you grow up, for some reason,
Right.
you crushed them and you don't want to, you instantly, we'll only suspend our disbelief about certain little things,
Right.
And, I didn't come from a household where little Timmy goes up and goes, Bob, are ghosts real? And she goes, of course not, Timmy, it's hogwash. That was not my upbringing. I asked my mom whenever, well, actually, I was going to.
If you've never heard of Padre Pio, you should read up on him.
Padre Pio?
Yes, Catholic priest from hundreds of years ago.
Okay.
We've had several occurrences within our family where we feel like Padre Pio intervened and, let us know something was wrong with so-and-so or something was going on. There have been incidents where we feel like my grandmother has left little tokens for us to let us know that she's watching or with us and things like that. My mom will discuss stuff like that.
My mom, the way my mom did it, whenever I asked my mom if ghosts were real, instead of her saying no like most parents would, my mom said, her answer was, son, I don't know. And I don't think anybody knows for sure, and I think that's the way that God designed it.
Just like
So
you're never
my mom
alone.
saw some things before, but her mother
Right.
was supposedly a white witch. They brought home this girl one time from wherever they were hanging out with, and she was doing her witchy stuff or whatever, and the door bust open. It was my grandmother, and she didn't know they were there or whatever, and she busted in the door and she looked at her and she said, I know what you are, you know what I am, get out. And so the girl actually at the time had my mom had her up against the wall. She was looking at her, and as she was staring at her, my mom's cross necklace broke and fell down, and she was going for my mom's throat, and that's when the door busted open and my grandmother was standing there. And she, they said it was like wind blew the door open, she's standing there and she's like, I
You're
know.
making my hair stand up on
That's the kind of family that I come from. My mom has seen ghosts. My mom has
Right.
seen the ghost of a Union soldier, a Civil War soldier.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had that one experience. And then whenever I was at Ridgewood at 3 a.m., like I was saying, I made the mistake of being in the back bedroom and I saw a shadow man, like a shadow in the shape of a person, and I watched it walk 3 steps across the bathroom and into the mirror. Like
Basically with that 3 a.m. is the mocking the Holy Trinity of
you're
when
getting into
Jesus
numerology
died
there,
at
that
3
has a
p.m.
significance to
well,
number 3.
actually, I can see the thing it is, I've always heard that Jesus Christ was crucified at 3 in the afternoon, so the exact opposite of that is 3 a.m. and that's that's kind of, it's
mocking the Holy
like turning
Trinity.
a cross upside down. It's kind of turning it on its head. That's what I've heard. I'm not for sure, but that's what I've heard.
I've heard
Right.
several stories like
But
that.
I was
where
going
it
to tell
mocks-
you, the whole point of me telling you about my grandmother being all into that stuff, I distinctly remember her telling me, because we would tell her about all these little things that were going on around the house. She told me one time that, I don't remember how she determined this, but she said that the property that our house sits on was right in the middle of a path going to a well on an old dairy farm, which is entirely possible. And we've got creeks and springs around here anyway. But
Right.
Oh, I can't believe I have forgotten about this. Even now, to this very day, I live right in the smack dab middle of White House.
Join the club.
Right. Okay, every so often you can hear a train.
Yeah,
Whistle.
I've actually heard it. I worked at MAPCO and I'm sitting out at 2:45 in
Yeah.
the morning and I hear a train horn.
Yeah, and there aren't any
Tell me
tracks
how that's
directly.
physically possible.
There aren't
are
any
no
tracks
trains.
in White House, right?
The nearest one is Portland.
No, there are not. There's
Wow.
one in Portland. You got Greenbrier. You got Springfield, Hendersonville, Gallatin.
But
That have you ever? I've got to ask.
Close as they come.
Have you ever heard a ghost? Everybody talks about seeing them. Have you ever heard one?
Yes.
See,
When I was really young.
now we get to compare it because Henry says that he's heard ghosts, and he says that to him they sound like just a regular person standing there talking to you.
it does.
It depends. I've heard them like that, and I've heard them whisper.
Now see that? No. me and JB used to talk about if there were zombies everywhere. I wouldn't be scared of the zombie 30 feet away going, brains. What I'd be scared about is if I was in a dark room and over my shoulder I heard, brains. That
freaked me out a little bit more.
That's far scarier to me.
That's funny.
But at any rate, so is that your ghost stories?
It's not really a ghost story, but just something to think about. My daughter, when she was a newborn, would make these whispering sounds and be in her little bassinet, looking up and kicking and smiling and waving her arms around, and she would be whispering and looking up. My grandmother said that she was talking to angels.
I've always heard when babies go to sleep and they're laughing and smiling in their sleep that they're playing with angels. That's what I've always heard.
Well, she was wide awake and looking up at whatever and smiling and laughing and whispering as a newborn.
That's kind of freaky. Actually, I tell you what, Jennifer, I really appreciate you calling, and we're going to do a couple more things, and we're going to wrap it up, and we'll definitely let you know as soon as it goes up.
Sounds cool. I hope I don't come off sounding like a Looney Tune.
You sound like you know what you're talking about to me.
I agree.
You're good, girl.
We'll talk to you later. All right. So,
That was a good
first successful
good,
call in. Joe, you were talking about something freaky deaky that your little girl did earlier. You want to hang on? I'm gonna hit the proton pack. You ready? Check this out.
Oh, that's
one of the reasons I bought that speaker.
Oh, you gotta
man.
love that.
And it vibrates your hand. You feel like you're holding a neutrino wand. It's great. But,
And now,
okay,
can you remind me what? Because she does a lot of freaky deaky stuff. so what was the basis? You remember?
Earlier tonight, you were talking about a situation where she said she was playing with somebody or something.
Okay, no. Okay, sorry. That was actually dating. That was okay.
Oh yeah.
So that was my ex-wife's oldest son.
Right.
Which I've been daddy to this boy since he was 18 months
Right.
old.
That's what I said. Your son. That's what I meant.
Oh no, yeah.
Which I got a lot of respect for that because I found out whenever I was 18 years old that my dad wasn't my dad, and my birth dad was somebody else.
Right.
And I tell you what, man, my respect level for my pop at that point went up to the roof,
sky
man.
high, right.
Because we might have butted heads growing up because I like playing music and playing video games, and he liked being outside working. And, But
old school.
But after I found that out, my respect level shot through the roof. Man.
Right.
So, but at any rate, he's always been your kid.
Oh
anyway,
yeah, and like he tells her boyfriend now, he told me, he said, but that's my daddy, and he's always going to be my daddy. And I'm like, that's my boy, that's what I'm talking about. But anyway, so after we got together and everything, we were staying over in Antioch. There was this, there was one night that I think she rolled over and woke me up, and he slept in the room with us. He was only like 18 months old,
Right.
maybe 2.
Right.
And so he slept, in his little bed over, next to our bed. And so I think she rolled over and woke me up, and she was like, look at this. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I look up, and he's standing up. And I couldn't tell if he was awake.
You wake up in the middle of the night, and the kid's just standing there.
He's just standing there beside his bed kind of thing.
What are you doing with that hammer, Carl?
right. I'm gonna keep you with it. Right. And so I'm like, buddy, what are you doing? He didn't respond. And so he just kind of like gently walks over, and he sits down on our bed. Like at the foot of the bed, and he goes, come sit right here. But he's talking to someone or somebody else, not us at all. Ooh. And we're both sitting there looking at each other like, what the hell did we do? Like, what's going on here? Is there someone in the room that we don't know about, Like, who is he talking about, or talking to? And he's like, no, just come sit right here. And he's patting the bed and everything, and it's like he's as aware as you can be. But we're like, he has to be asleep. There's, he's, oblivious to us.
Yeah, he's out of
kind
it.
Of thing.
He's sleepwalking.
Right.
Kind of thing.
And so, finally, like, either he wakes up or he just goes, no, I think he might have just went and laid back down after that. And we were like, okay,
Because he slept in his own,
right.
He slept in his own room at this point, and so he just showed up in your room.
No, he was in our room. He slept in our room.
But he got up out of his bed.
He got up out of his bed, right.
Gotcha.
And so, I think he just went and laid back down in his bed and went back to sleep, and we were like, okay, well, that was strange. So it was like the next day, and it might have been 2 days later or something, but something happened, and it was at the point where he wasn't, like, he was talking, but he wasn't putting sentences together. He wasn't, he wasn't making it
right.
Making
he
it
was
happen.
he was talking a little bit, single words and stuff, right.
And so we asked him to, like, go grab something from over there in the corner. It was like, go pick up your toy or something.
Right.
And he just got terrified. It just out of the blue, and he was just like, no.
Oh man!
And he was scared
you had
to
to
death.
figure out
Like, you could
was
not
going
fake
on.
this terror that was
Right.
in this boy. And
Right.
and I'm like, buddy, it's okay, like, here, daddy, here, I'll go get it, okay? And as soon as I started walking over there, and all it was like a few, pairs of pants laying on the floor and his
pile
toy.
of clothes, some
That was
dirty
it.
clothes or something, huh?
Right. And as soon as I got close to it, he starts screaming, no! Like bloody murder, like something was about to get me. He saw something, kind of thing.
Right.
And I was like, buddy, it's okay. And I picked up his toys. I'm like, look, everything's fine. And I walk over there, and I'm like touching the corner, and he's like, no, screaming, and like, it just, man, that made me think for days and days. And I was like, dude, because he had to have seen something that had to have been something that he saw. And that goes back to us being susceptible to stuff when we're young.
I think, my opinion, I'm not sure, but I think since babies are so close to that side, like there's birth and then there's death, they're so close to they were just nothingness, or their consciousness was out there floating around. I honestly believe that consciousness survives death. I honestly believe that. I had an out-of-body experience. I'm going to save that, I guess, for another show, but rest assured, what it was at the hospital, they gave me ketamine, and they gave me propofol, and they gave me a lot of it. Now, I know that some people will say, well, you just hallucinated. This was not a hallucination. I actually came out of my body, and I don't mean like I looked like myself, but I was see-through, and I was floating and looking down at my body. Like, I come out of my body, and I felt that I was energy. Yeah. Like, I felt like I was a part of everything in the world, and I was in perfect harmony. I was vibrating at the same frequency as everything else, and it was like I knew everything that had ever been known, but it wasn't a big deal that I knew it. Yeah. I was just like, and the way I explained it to Christy, I said, I see everything, and I see nothing. And she said, darling, I don't know what you were seeing, but the look on your face was the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. Wow. It was intense. And after that experience, I was listening around to some podcast or something, and I heard somebody talking about the number of conscious minds in the universe is one. That we're basically, there's only one stream of consciousness, and we're all like little branches off that stream. And if that's true, that explains psychic ability. It explains a lot of stuff. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like, and I totally believe, like I said, I come out of my body, and it's like once I felt how much of a restriction my body was, that I could only function, it's almost like you're functioning in another dimension. And the way that dimensions work, everybody gets kind of thrown off by it. But if you're looking at like a drawing of a square, you know what I mean? It's got height, it's got length, so you can go backward and you can go forward and you can go up and, well, the thing of it is you can't go up and down. If something's 2D, there's no up and down. There's front to back and side to side. You know what I mean? And whenever you add height to it, that's the third dimension. So it makes me wonder if there aren't other dimensions that are higher that we just can't observe.
Yeah.
I'm sure, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I know consciousness survives death in my mind. And it's not just poltergeist. It's like, have you ever seen some of these the reincarnations where kids remember their past lives? and they will actually take people. There was this one kid, and he was born in this village, he said, and it was like, I don't know, I want to say it was like 60 miles away or something. Right. And so once they took him there, he told them how to get there, and then took them to specific houses, and took them to a house, and he said, I used to live here, my name was Helen. Now, this is a little boy. And so they went to the house and knocked on the door. The guy answered the door, and he got to talking, and he was crying by the time it was over with, because this kid knew everything that Helen, his wife, had just passed away around the time this kid was born. And they knew all the same people, even down to the point of he knew where they kept all the spices and everything in the cabinets.
Wow.
So that makes me pause and think, maybe there is something to reincarnation, But I think the spirit survives, and I think that sometimes that explains some of the ghost activity. I think some ghost activity is demons, straight up. I think Ouija boards are absolutely real, that you can open a conduit and open a tunnel and let stuff through. I think people can be haunted. I think something bad can affix to you. And so I think that's going to do it for our first show. We sat around and definitely told some fun ghost stories. And I'll close out with this. My friend Tiffany is an author. She's a real writer, right? And even her dude is a writer. And they're real published authors. I don't know why, but I know like 3 or 4 published authors. And they're all really good writers. But so what she does being a writer is she takes a real life experience that happens to her, slaps a snazzy ending on it, and comes up with a nice little piece of quote unquote fiction.
Right.
But this is an actual honest to God story. There's a little snappy ending to it, but I'm going to try to tell it without screwing it up. It goes a little something like this. Okay, so she's writing it about herself, right? So this girl currently doesn't have a place to stay. She's living out of her Volkswagen, right? So she goes over. A couple guys invited her over to spend the night with them. Not like that. And so they're all sitting around or whatever, and they decide before they go to bed they're going to have shut the vodka, right?
Yeah.
Because the guy had told her, oh, by the way, the house is haunted. But don't make a big deal out of it, because if you ignore it, it'll go away. But if it freaks you out, it'll just get worse. Okay, that's like saying, don't think of a pink elephant riding a tricycle down Rainbow Road from Mario Kart.
Don't do it. Just don't do it.
You just did it.
Whatever
you just did it. So anyways, she drinks her shot of vodka, and of course it's like this bachelor pad, and he makes them some kind of spam concoction, to eat. And she's drinking the vodka out of this like Ghostbusters cup with like a chip out of it. The handle's broke, it's a bachelor thing.
Oh, yeah.
So, at any rate, they drink their shot or whatever, and they go and lay down. And the room that she's in, the way it's situated is such as it's a long room, and there's a bed on one side she's sleeping in. There's a bed on the other side of the room that the other guy that lives there is sleeping in. Okay, and the door's closed and everything. And, of course, after they ate, they take their dishes, put them in the sink, they called it a night, went to bed. Okay, so enough time goes by for you to get just enough comfortable that you maybe doze off to sleep for a second. All right, well, the first thing that happens, she feels something hit her.
What?
Yeah, she feels something hit her, and she reaches down, she grabs her phone light, turns it on. It's the cup. It's the Ghostbusters mug. But the only problem with that is it should be in the sink on the other side of the closed door.
Right.
But somehow it just materializes and drops down on her. Okay, this is the beginning of the weird parade. All right. Yeah, it gets good. So some more time goes by, enough to get, sleepy or whatever. Then she hears this noise, and she's like, what is that? So she grabs her phone, turns on the light, and you know how most stuff, when you turn a light on, it like runs and hides? Not this stuff. Nope. It wants to be seen. It wants to be seen.
Hi.
The noise is being caused by the change that's running the Kentucky Derby on the nightstand beside her. All right? Now, and if somebody's trying to trick this girl, they're doing a damn good job. I don't even know if money is magnetic or not. But she said that some of them was moving around really slow, and some of them were so fast that they were just a blur. So if somebody's tricking this girl, they're doing a really good job.
Yeah, fantastic.
So this freaks her out, and she wants to get a hold of the guy sleeping against the other wall. So she whips the phone around on him, And she goes, hey, and she calls him by name, but there's a problem. The guy's dead asleep on his back, right, on the ground, or on the bed. But there's a problem. His legs are up in the air because something has a hold of him.
Oh, Lord.
Looked over, and his legs are up in the air, and you can see his pants pulled tight where something's holding him. And she managed to call his name, and when she did, it let him go, and he dropped and hit the floor and rolled over, and he was like, what is it? She's like, never mind. And she was gone. And then the only difference, and that's the real life story, but the ending, the snazzy ending was that as soon as she left, she was involved in an accident, and the paramedics showed up on the scene, and they saw her in the car, and they noticed for some reason there was something sitting beside her. And it was a Ghostbusters mug with little Chip out and the handle broke. So that is the snazzy ending. But otherwise,
That's fire. I love it.
she is a real writer. I love it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be able to live my life without hearing that story. That's
But
great.
it's the thing of it is that gets me. It's true. It's absolutely up until the end where she dies in a car wreck. But it's absolutely true. And I think, here's the other thing, closing statements. I think out of all the ghost stories you've ever heard in your life, and I know we've all heard a bunch of ghost stories, if one of those is true, if 99.9 of them are complete BS, but if one of them is true, then it exists. And I don't think that we know enough about reality, consciousness, and the world that we live in to say that no, ghosts don't exist. So I'm going to say that they do, but God designs it so that you can't prove it, because we have to have faith.
We have, faith is the thing.
You think that's it?
Yep.
You think that's why
Knowing
we...
without seeing. Yep. That's
Right.
it.
The evidence of things unseen. I think maybe that's why we can never really get a grasp on souls or, ghosts or spirits.
Afterlife.
The afterlife. Right. I think if we proved it, then, we all know it's real, so we've got to, we need to do this. And I think God purposely designs it to be the great unknown. And with that, we're signing off. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Again, if you have any kind of paranormal or supernatural story, send it to us at the ParaNatural Podcast at gmail.com, or you can get us on Facebook. Tonight, Henry Woodard, Big Hen Dog, sitting in with us, and then Joe the Juggalo Cole. And so we want to say thanks for tuning in, and make sure that you check us out. Next episode we're going to be doing is local legends, and hopefully we can get a couple more guests. But until then, guys, have a great night and sleep tight.
The ParaNatural Podcast.